This conference will now be recorded.
All right, good evening, everyone. I'd like to call to order the meeting of the Town Commission on October 4th, 2021 at 6 p.m. Thank you to those who are listening to our live audio feed. Just a reminder that those who wish to make public comment during the meeting are encouraged to attend in person in our chambers or send comments to the town clerk prior to the meeting. Clerk Armstrong, please do the roll call.
Commissioner Cobb?
Here.
Mayor DeHasa?
Present.
Vice Mayor Herbert?
Here.
Commissioner Pugh?
Here.
Commissioner Bichelet?
Here.
Please join us in rising to the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, are there any additions, deletions, or modifications to the agenda?
Yes. I would like to add commissioner discussion of white flag.
Of what?
White flag.
White flag.
They're
I
back.
would like to take out item number 1H for discussion. Or we can also discuss it afterwards if necessary. The technology contract that we have software for the building department.
Okay, well,
We can vote on it as it is.
mhm,
I'm okay with that. I just would like to
have a discussion
have
about
a
it.
quick discussion about it.
Okay, and Attorney Goodell, where would that fall? Would we just, after the approval of the consent agenda, have a discussion point?
Well, since it's approving it as is on the consent agenda, you may just want to move it to regular agenda items if there's going to be discussion, just because the discussion might impact how it gets approved.
Right.
So if that's going to be entertained, then I would just move it down to regular agenda item.
Before two.
4A or something like that, so it's a new item.
Okay, do we have consensus to do that?
Sure.
Yes. Okay.
Thank you.
Any changes, additions, or deletions from the town manager?
No.
Town attorney? Police chief? Building official? All right, we're good to go. Okay, I would now like to, oh, no. I'll now entertain a motion for the approval of the agenda so amended.
So moved.
Second.
That is a motion by Commissioner Pugh, a second by Commissioner Cos. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Okay, moving on to presentation of the Employee of the Quarter Award. Town Manager Stevens, will you please inform us of this?
Absolutely. It is my honor to present the Employee of the Quarter Award to Police Officer Bob McAllister. Bob, if you could please come up to the podium. As you know, the Employee Recognition Committee worked on a recognition program this past year, which includes Employee of the Quarter program. The Employee of the Quarter is recognized at the Town Commission meeting, featured in the town newsletter, and receives an award certificate and $25 gift card. Nomination forms were distributed to all employees to nominate a fellow employee for the Employee of the Quarter Award, and we received 4 nominations. The Employee Recognition Committee met and voted unanimously to select Police Officer Bob McAllister. Many of you know him as Mac, as the Employee of the Quarter. Mac was instrumental in the arrest of a person who was in the process of burglarizing a home in August. His quick response and keen observations prevented the homeowner from being deprived of their property, and he was able to remove drugs and drug paraphernalia from the streets that were found in the subject's vehicle at that time. Mac has also been a strong team player over the past month, working closely with the building official and public works department on the town's enhanced community standards program. Our sincere thanks go out to Officer McAllister for making Ocean Ridge a safe place for residents and visitors alike, and for being a proud member of our essential team. Congratulations, Officer McAllister, on this award for outstanding performance.
Thank you.
Get over me. Appreciate it. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Zach.
Town Clerk Armstrong, will you please now read the announcement?
The next regular town commission meeting will be held on Monday, November 1st at 6 p.m. at Town Hall. The next planning and zoning commission meeting will be held on Monday, October 25th at 8 a.m. at Town Hall. A joint workshop between the town commission and the planning and zoning commission will be held on Tuesday, October 12th at 4 p.m. at Town Hall. Town Hall will be closed on Monday, October 11th in observance of Columbus Day. The annual municipal election will be held on March 8th, 2022. There is one town commission seat open for a 3-year term. Candidate filing date runs from November 1st, 2021 at 8:30 a.m. through November 12th, 2021 at 3 p.m. in the town clerk's office. Please join us each month prior to the town commission meeting at 5 p.m. for the building officials educational forum in the commission chambers at Town Hall. Details, including topics to be discussed each month, are on the town's website. Residents who wish to sign up to receive important town's notifications and news through Civic Ready should sign up on the town's website or call Town Hall for assistance.
Thank you. I'll now open the floor to public comment for any topic that is not listed on the agenda. Just as a reminder, we have a 3-minute limit per person.
Jerry Lauer, 2 Harbor Drive North. I usually try and avoid addressing this group of people as publisher of the Coastal Star. Today, though, I get to bring you a little bit of weird news. Whether it's a postal delivery person who just missed a box of papers, or whether it is the changes that Postmaster Louis DeJoy put into place October 1st. Mail delivery is coming slow. Many of you should have had this in your mailbox on Saturday or today, and many of you don't. I apologize for that. We're trying to figure out what's wrong. In the meantime, there's a small stack of them sitting on the couch right outside there. There's plenty outside of our office. Sure as heck, tomorrow all of you will get them in the mail. But I wanted to apologize, especially there's some really fine coverage in this edition about the town. And with that, I thank you, and I'm going to catch the rest of the meeting at home.
All right, we thank you.
Thanks, Jen.
We love our Coastal Star.
Yeah.
Any other public comment? Okay, seeing none, public comment is now closed. Town Clerk Armstrong, will you please read the consent agenda into the record as amended?
Adopt minutes of the regular town commission meeting of September 7th, 2021. Adopt minutes of the special town commission meeting of September 21, 2021. Acceptance of the revenue and expenditure report for August 2021. Resolution number 2021-21 designating the town of Ocean Ridge canvassing board for the March 8th, 2022 municipal election. Resolution number 2021-22 authorizing the mayor and town clerk to execute the agreement for vote processing equipment used and election services for the March 8th, 2022 municipal election. Adopt the annual CRS floodplain management plan and progress report. G, authorize the town manager to sign the proposal and any associated contract with Tyler Technologies for the time and attendance software as budgeted in the FY22 budget. Approve Nolan Holt and minor town auditor contract extension and engagement letters. Ratification of the town manager's renewal of workers' comp and general liability insurance contracts with preferred governmental insurance trust digits as budgeted in the FY22 budget.
Okay, thank you. I'll now entertain a motion for the approval of the consent agenda as amended.
So moved.
Okay, that is a motion by Commissioner Cos, a second by Vice Mayor Hurlbert. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Moving on to our regular agenda items. Agenda item number 2, discussion regarding potential potable water infrastructure project to be funded by the American Rescue Plan Act. Town Manager Stevens, will you please advise us on this item?
Yes, as you know, we received our first tranche of the ARPA funding. We will receive our second tranche next year. And I would like to invite Town Engineer Troy Pepe to the podium to speak to you all about a potential project that we think needs to be funded with this funding.
Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Commissioners. It's great to see everybody. It's just great to be out.
Like the,
Thank you. I hope you all read the memo that I sent. It's about the American Rescue Plan Act. And as the manager was stating, we are projected to receive approximately $900,000 over a 2-year span. We've been in conversation with the Ryan Ruskay, who's our grant administrator. And there are rules, of course, and some leaps that you have to get to in order to qualify for this particular grant. So capital projects is definitely eligible. And here's the good news. I mean, for the most part, the town of Ocean Ridge has done a good job with their capital projects. So it was a little bit difficult to find one that we can emphatically justify that would meet these grant requirements. So over the last few years, and I know some of you know this, we've been getting a few more water main breaks than normal. I don't think it's going to get any less. It's probably going to happen more and more. When we put in the 3 valves near Inlet K Drive on A1A, we've realized that there is a 6-inch cast iron pipe that we have no idea how old it is. But we do know that it's older than the last water main project that was done in the 90s. So my professional opinion, this pipe is definitely way beyond its useful life. So when we were looking at areas that we can do some improvements and be able to justify the health, safety, and welfare of the public, and when we spoke to Ryan, their number one thought for all of us was to look at the water distribution system. And so when we have been repairing a lot of the water main, it appears that it's occurring more in the north end of town. And so staff has been looking at different areas and have pinpointed the area along A1A on the east side of the road, from where Inlet K is north to Sable Island. It's approximately 2,400 linear feet of 6-inch cast iron pipe.
is it that same old pipe?
It's the same old pipe. We've now, because we put in those insertion valves, we were able to actually see inside the pipe. And we know that it is beyond its useful life. So, so what we're proposing to do is to either by pipe bursting, I don't know, or put in a new pipe, I'm not exactly sure, but we'd like to ultimately be able to have an 8-inch water main that could take care of directly the condominiums along the east side of the road, but indirectly it takes care, it helps everyone. So let me just explain why indirectly. What we would like to do is if we can get a new 8-inch water line, we would like to connect it by an 8-inch line to the line that was put in the 90s. And that way the whole system will be looped with a proper size pipe to provide not only potable water as an option, but also to provide fire safety. So when we spoke to the grant administrator, we explained that this pipe is beyond its useful life. It's going to be used not only for drinking water, but also for fire protection. He felt that that's a very good project. He was pretty supportive of this particular area. Because we do not know how old this pipe is, we also know that in the industry for multifamily development in today's day, the minimum size water line that you should use that in my career of 30 years minimum would be an 8-inch line. So way back in the day, maybe 6-inch was okay. It's not okay anymore. And we have many residents along that eastern side that could directly benefit from it, and indirectly would benefit everybody in the north end. So we're looking at approximately 2,400 linear feet of pipe to possibly replace. And we're hoping that the commission would allow the staff to go and investigate a little bit further as to maybe a means and methods of how we're going to do that and how we would go out to bid for it so that we can get the best price and the best person to do the job.
Okay.
So does anybody have any questions?
I do. You're saying basically replacing the 6-inch line with an 8-inch line on this particular section. Are we tying this to an 8-inch line, or we're just replacing it with an 8-inch line, tying it to 6-inch line?
That's a good question. So we were proposing to put a new 8-inch line and then a crossing across A1A to connect to the newer 8-inch line on the west side. So it
We
would
have two lines parallel running along A1A,
Yes.
on the west and on the east.
Yes, yes, we do. We have that almost the entire stretch of the town. There's water mains on both sides.
Sounds redundant, but I guess we have to shut off water. It's a good thing.
Shoot many lines. So it says here 700 to 850. So basically what we're making a decision, we're starting to make a decision to commit our entire ARP money to this.
One project.
Gotcha.
Well, let's first get an RFP to determine if that's really going to be the cost of 2,400 feet of line, 8-inch line.
Right, but first we have to have commission approval that this is the area to investigate. And then we'd have to, create a set of plans, a set of specs, and probably alternatives in order to do this, to make sure that the method that we're proposing is the best method, that the best bang for the buck.
And those soft costs that she's talking about right now to develop the RFP and do all of that work, that would be covered under the grant as well. And that's another reason why we need commission approval to move forward with this project using the ARPA
So
funds.
worst case scenario is we do all the soft work and then we don't proceed with the hardware. How much would the soft work cost?
Probably less than, any like 5% or 6 or 7% of the project.
So
I don't even
40,000.
think that, I'm not, if that, but why would you do that and not go all the
I'm
way?
just looking down the road if something blows up,
Oh.
in this whole plan.
We might need the ARPA money for something else. For the Christmas party,
Yeah, no, I'd say not quite that easy to just switch over where we're going to send it.
No, and the grant administrator was very, very clear to us too, that he did not recommend that the project be a bunch of projects. He stated that if it's one project, he has to be able to justify it. I have to be able to justify it. So,
if we don't spend the entire amount of money,
yeah, what do you do?
what happens to the rest of the ARPA money? Can we still use it for something else? I mean, not for a Christmas party, but
Yeah.
something that is actually covered.
Yeah, it's gonna depend. We think it's gonna take the full amount. If it doesn't, then we have to regroup and see how much we have left and see if there are any other viable projects that would qualify under that.
Or maybe we can extend the pipe length. I mean, that's where we can, with the,
And if we're
With the
running over
bid-
budget, we're gonna do 2355.
right, maybe with a bid, we'll have different, I think, I foresee it as having different alternatives. And so then the commission can choose, and
So you're
maybe
just
we
looking
could,
for a consensus from us.
Yeah,
Right,
Cool.
yeah.
move forward on this project.
So before that, I'd like to open the floor for public comment.
Carolyn Cassidy, 7 Hudson. I asked at the September 21st budget meeting about just this, which was the ARPA funds and how they could be used. And specifically as it pertains to the budgeted potable water infrastructure item that you have in the budget. So I'm just wondering now, 2 weeks later, these funds could be allocated for water main, potable water. Does this, because I think your response at the time, Tracy, was that we're earmarking those funds for an emergency situation, because I asked about Tamarind for their fire, the water. I mean, is this going to alleviate their problem
We don't.
if
know.
we go,
We don't know.
you don't know? And then how will these funds affect the budgeted potable water line item? Is all of that that's already budgeted, will that be taken care of by the use of these funds?
I'd have to look at the budget to see what exactly we have in there. I know we have water valve, can locators and things like that. I don't think that's going to be wrapped into it.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Cassidy. Any other public comment? All right, I'll now close the floor and entertain a motion for approving the potable water infrastructure project to be funded by ARPA as recommended by staff.
So
Second.
That is a motion by Commissioner Cos, a second by Commissioner Vishalak. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Moving on to agenda item number 3, request for fee reduction of 6110 North Ocean Boulevard, Unit 33. Clerk Armstrong, will you please advise us on this item?
Hi, Mayor, and Commissioners. So I received a request from a contractor to, he had to pay a work without a permit fee because he started the work without having the proper permits. He submitted for his permit, but it had comments that he needed to address. And so it was noted that he has started the work, and so we did take him to code enforcement in front of the special magistrate on August 3rd. She did find that there was a violation and that she gave him until August 13th to achieve compliance or start earning a daily fine of $250. He did achieve compliance because he did get address the comments and he obtained his permit on August 5th, 2021. So no daily fines were charged. I do want to note for the record that he did pay the $259 of administrative fine, an administrative fine placed by the special magistrate. The cost of the job is listed as $535,000 for the building permit application. The contractor paid a total of $12,834 with 38 cents in fees, which that includes the $11,275 for permit fee, the DCA fee, which is a state charge of $281.88, the plan review fee of $1,127.50, and the scanning charge of $150. The contractor paid an additional $33,825 in work without a permit fee because it's 4 times the permit fee. So he is here today, and if you have any questions and he wants to present his case to be able to either get some funds or the entirety back.
Okay, I'd like to invite the representative to speak to us first.
Good evening. Thank you for your time. My name is Albert Wadsworth. And I am the contractor in question, unfortunately, this particular case. We did start before, so I'm not going to say anything that we didn't do. But given the environment, as you see in my letter, it was enclosed. What we did was try to start to do some of the preliminary work that we needed to do. I don't know if y'all are familiar with been with the workloads of both the building officials in the town, as well as the supply and demand of labor and materials at this juncture in the world we live in right now. But we're under a fine line of construction time and availability to be able to do construction in Pelican Cove. And given the time frame we were living in and the fact that the permits were submitted, we did start some work to try to develop and order materials that have long lead times. Windows and doors are 18 to 20 weeks, and they'll continually get further, along with other materials that needed to be done, as well as part of the structural work that was submitted in the plans to make sure that that structural work could be in fact completed. So we did do some investigative work and we did do some work started with it, but our effort was to expedite the process in a given definitive timeline that we're trying to work in, which is very hard because you've only got 4 or 5 months to completely do the amount of work that my clients have recommended or requested. I'm dealing with both clients that want to hurry up and get in their house, and I'm dealing with the town that's overworked trying to compete when you complete all their permits and stuff. And I'm trying to order stuff that telling me that's going to be a long time to get. So we did start early. I'm not going to deny that, but it was in an effort to expedite and move forward. It wasn't a malicious or malice, unconscionable work that we did stuff that we tried to hide, or work that we did with, that was not in the scope of work that we already submitted. It was a focused, defined line of work that we had submitted. We're staying true to that work, and we haven't deviated that from day one. You can see when we did get the permits back, we did have a couple of meetings in trying to clarify the wants and needs of the towns on how to try to expedite their comments and get them back. So we did meet all their criteria. It just took a long time because some of the questions involved other engineers, other county officials that had to get, because we enclosed some spaces, so they had to see if there was any fees and stuff. So I'm at the mercy of the county that takes a couple of weeks to try to get a response back. So there was a lot of issues in there in that period of time, and we tried to work with the town and try to get it done, but it did take time on our end, time that probably now will, not a result of it, but it's just a definitive time that we're probably not going to make our timeline, because if we don't stop by the end of November, if we continue forward in any period of time, we get hit with fines in Pelican Cove because you go after the November 15th. Once you get to the end of November, you have a mandatory stop. If you're not finished, the clients don't get their property. They'd have to go rent a place for the season. So there's a definitive timeline and downtime. I don't have an unlimited time frame to be able to do the work. The world has changed. It's harder to get work done. Labor forces are short. Materials are longer lead time. And it's all you can do to try to keep all your boxes checked in the right order to move forward. So that was the direction we were going in. Having said that, we've all lost a lot of work. We've all been penalized. We've all been restricted from work. To have this type of fine is a big portion of what my 6 months of work would be. That's a big portion of, as a contractor, I work on a fee basis, and that's, I wouldn't say it's half, but it's pretty doggone close. So I'm basically doing this entire project with the strap of this fee for basically nothing, because the money they're making was probably just more or less my overhead and what it costs to do the jobs. So I understand the means and what it's there for. I understand the structure, but I think in this particular case, as there wasn't no malice in what we were trying to do. We were trying to move a project along, and I've seen and been here on a couple of different meetings where projects are a couple of years in the making. We're trying to do something in a matter of less than 6 months, and it's quite a challenge. It's quite a feat. Everybody's under a lot of pressure right now, and that's kind of where we are. And just hope y'all would take a look at it and see if we have some way that we can assist on what we're already under, the pressure we're already under.
Okay. Thank you, and thank you for your honesty. It's appreciated, and it's actually a breath of fresh air. How long have you been a contractor, sir?
Better than 20 years.
So you know the permit process, you know the timeline. You got in an expedited situation where you have some very hard deadlines that you have to meet because of the homeowners association. But ordering materials outside of a permit is superfluous. That doesn't make any difference. Starting structural work knowing that that is required under a permit is a very different thing. So, let's take the materials out of that.
If you will, I don't want to, I will object a little bit.
Okay.
Ordering windows and doors, because the openings and stuff are defined, they have to be exposed. So it's not like you can say, okay, give me that window. You have to give that window for that particular opening. So they have to know what that opening is. It's not like you can just make it and work backwards. There was no structural work done in this. There was nothing that made the place unsafe. There was no structural work. It was just drywall, pulling stuff down, taking measurements, pulling cabinets out, pulling floors out. Stuff that was non-structural, non-invasive, and allowed us to see what the openings were from the inside and make orders and stuff like that needed to be done.
Okay, I'm sorry. I thought I heard you say very clearly that you did do some structural work without
No.
permit.
We submitted structural plans. We had not done any structural work.
Okay.
No, if I said that, I was mistaken. I hadn't done any structural work. I did submit structural plans that were once approved. The structural work took place. Yes, ma'am.
All right, I'd like to open it up for commissioner discussion.
Any questions?
Why don't we hear from the building official?
Yep.
That's right.
Good evening, Commissioners, Mayor, Vice Mayor, President. So the town has been suffering from some contractors that have been doing some work in the town that have started having the town to look like Lebanon. This was one of them. Structural work was done. Walls were removed. That is how we received the complaint, and we have documentation that portions of the wall was done. Once the permit was received, the town did process it within 10 business days. And throughout the whole process, we made ourselves available to the contractor to guide him along the way. The town did not impede this contractor in any way. We followed the rules of the town, which had to do with work without permit. And that is the process that we followed. And it's up to the pleasure of the commission to make a decision to alleviate, help, this contractor. But he, to his credit, has admitted that things did not go the way they should have, whatever the reasons were. And again, it's the pleasure of the commission to make that decision.
Thank you, Mr. Guy. Vice Mayor Hurlbert.
Well, I do appreciate the honesty, but again, I'm going to lean over here with, we're under the gun as well. And we have rules that, even though I get it, I totally get it, everything's under. The biggest problem for you is the HOA, and you had a small window to work in, but took advantage of starting before. So I totally understand the building department and the fine. I'm seeing both sides, absolutely, but then on the other hand, that commitment that you had was through the HOA and your acceptance of that job, knowing what the time frame was, right? Because they must have told you right up front when you began that they only allow construction through November?
Through November.
Right? So you knew you were going to be under the gun to begin with. So.
No, we knew it would be a lot of pressure to try to get it done. I just think that, and I'm not saying that we didn't start it. The
No, I
walls were
understand.
taken out, were the 2x4 walls. We didn't.
No, I totally understand, but on the other hand, that's what rules are meant for, so that, and if it got to the point where there was construction, if there was construction going on ahead again, then we were playing by your own rules, so to speak. So I'm not inclined to dismiss this fine.
I think it's a tremendous amount of money for what it is, to being honest and saying, here, this is what our costs are.
Well, you have to be honest.
Well, I have to be, but there's not a problem there,
to.
but I know that there's, I showed everything up front to start with, even before it was even submitted.
So I'm going to hear what the rest of
Yeah, so Albert, what I'd like to suggest is I'm going to ask the commissioners for their comments. If they have a question, they'll ask you directly, but we need to stop this back and forth.
I'm sorry.
That's all right. Okay, Commissioner Claus.
What I have back and forth. Okay.
I'm not used to being up here, so I apologize
I
for the
know.
I
protocol.
had a fascinating conversation in my staff meeting with Tracy and Durrani. And we don't have anything, and Attorney Christie, we don't have anything in our code about a partial demo ordinance, which is something that I think it was Durrani brought up. If we had such an ordinance or extension of our current demo ordinance, then he could have got a partial demo permit and started. And then he wouldn't be in violation, but we don't have that ability.
But we did, I think you did have that at one time.
No, we don't have it in the code. I went through this pretty.
No, not in code, but I think the town of Ocean Ridge used to allow you to do a demo permit first and then
Yeah,
submit.
a demo, but
Yeah.
in this case, when there's an HOA involved,
Correct.
we need an addition to our code, what's called.
Okay.
And that would solve that problem.
It would help.
So the way I read all this is it's $33,000 due from you, or that you paid in fees for work that shouldn't have been going on. And I get, Durrani seemed a little more gentle than I thought he'd be with you. So I'm gonna suggest we go to reduce that to 25,000 instead of 33,000. For honesty.
Everybody else, that I do appreciate it.
So my question to you, official guy, is the $33,825 the fine amount? The way that I'm reading that is the amount of work that was done without a permit. So what is really the fine? What is it that we're looking to collect?
So we already collected.
I've already
We already
paid it.
paid. So anything that we will give
I
them a
paid it a couple
refund in the
months ago.
amount of whatever you guys reduce it to.
But the way I read this, the 33
The 33
is for
is,
breaking the rules.
yes, the
Right.
33 for work without a,
Can reduce that to 25,
Okay,
which would give you $8,000.
okay, Commissioner Bichelot.
I got a couple of questions for you.
Sure.
So you submitted a permit on the 9th of June.
Correct.
My understanding is that that building has a restriction on building from November 15 or the 30th, somewhere in November until, I assume, April. Middle of April, end of April.
Yeah, April 15th, I'm not sure which date, but it's yes.
Why wasn't that permit submitted April? Why wasn't the permit submitted in February?
The clients were making decisions.
So the clients basically held back and made decisions and stalled this in a period when you actually could have done work.
I could have started, I think it was the
And I
15th of
understand,
April.
listen,
You know,
knowing a little bit about building 535,000 job costs, that's substantial work that you do.
they're doing some very nice work to enhance our code and everything.
Trust me, I'm not trying to,
No, that's why,
there's a lot of work that needs to be. So it sounds like it's a full out reno.
it's everything.
Where I'm having a problem with this, that this was submitted basically 3 months after the point where it should have been submitted in order to start the work when you potentially can start working again, according to the condo.
No, sir, it was submitted a month. If April 15th was to start, we submitted it 1st of June. So it's a month and a half.
So 1 and a half. A month,
Hey, let us-
but it stalled a month and a half. In a month and a half, you could have gone through, and here's the thing. That's when you submitted the permit. But then you're going through the entire process and the permit has to be reviewed, then you're getting comments. And we both know that when you submit something of this scope, that you will get comments back. There will be something on that plan, 99% of the time, that you will have comments to come. So just based off your experience, 20 years being a contractor, you should have seen that if I submit this on the 9th of June, I'm not going to have a permit at least for a month. By the time that they're going to review it, they're going to come back with comments, I can address the comments, I can revise whatever I need to revise, and then submit it again and then get final approval. So realistically, by you looking at it as a professional, you should have seen, I'm not going to get into this until July. And in July, Now you're running into the 4 months lead time on windows. And again, I understand. But as a professional, you should have seen that all coming. And you did see it coming because you started the work. Which I, you know, somewhere in there, I understand what you were doing. I understand that you're trying to do it. And same as the other commissioners, I appreciate that you're honest about it. There's nothing worse than just back and forth. I didn't know.
No. Okay.
But just based off experience, you should have seen that this is going to be impossible to get done if it is done the right way. And that's what bothers me.
Well, I'll address all of your comments, okay? This is not the first one I've done, okay, in that unit. So the plans that were submitted were done in a unit the year before last. The year before last, I submitted a set of plans. We made the comments, we corrected them. Okay, this set was identical to the set that was approved the year and a half before. So in your theory, there should be no comments.
No, because in a year and a half, we had a bunch of things going on.
No, but if you look at, and I'm not gonna, there's a different school of thought on how to get the plans and stuff taken care of. So in other words, the one we did it before, to your point about the demo permit, we did a full set of plans. It came out exactly the same, general contractor, myself, AC contractor, everybody else came right in. We put it in, we made the comments. Last year, a year before when we did this, you submitted a set of plans and everybody, the subcontractors, submitted their plans along with it. Okay. This year, it was requested that when I submit a set of plans in, I submit everybody with it. That's a different animal. It's not that it's wrong, it's just different. There's nothing wrong with it. But that's not the comments I expected to get out. I expected to get out the exact same plans that were approved 18 months before with, make sure you get your AC plumb, sub work, your plumbers, everybody else to have their set of plans. This particular time I was requested to put everything in the major set of plans, which means you have two choices. You can retain an engineer to do the entire scope of work. And he does the MEPs, mechanical, electrical, plumbing. That's an expensive proposition. Granted, we're not taking advantage of the amount of money they're spending, but the scope of work is a remodel. MEP engineers are usually designed, or I've used them in the past, in more of a larger construction. Neither one of these are wrong. It's just a different approach. I take the approach of saying, here, Mr. Air Conditioner gentleman, you got these comments. This is your scope of work. This is what the comment said. Make sure that your plans, because you're fully responsible for them, meet the comments of the electrician, of Mr. Guy. You know, so everybody has to do it. It takes a long time to do that. That was different than the year before. So I was not expecting that at any stretch of the imagination. I was expecting to get a plan here before your air conditioner guy comes. Make sure he submits his sub-permit with his plans. Make sure your plumber submits his application as a sub-permit with his plans. Electrical, everybody down the road. This one is done differently. It's all put into one pile. So how we get to the end game is different. It was just.
Let me help you out why we're doing it.
Mm-hmm. Why we doing?
Why we're doing it so the building
official there's no doubt.
Does not have to look at an AC plan and then has to run over and actually pull the big plan and try to compare the AC plan to the big plan. That's why everything gets munched into one. You have one full construction set with everything in.
I just wasn't aware of that.
And that's the reason why we changed the, why the building official
absolutely
changed it, in order to have a better scope of what is he actually looking at instead of trying to piecemeal things together. So again, I understand what's happening. And the problem is not entirely your fault. And I hope that the homeowner sees that. The problem is
they're not aware of it. I'm taking this solely on myself, so they're not even aware of it.
They should be aware.
They're not. That's just the way I
if
choose to do
they're
it.
coming in and they're giving you instructions to submit permits on June 9th, in order to finish something by November 15th, they already shot this thing in the foot.
So Commissioner Vishalak, I don't think that it is up to us to explain to the contractor or have the contractor
No, but-
reveal his relationship with his owner.
That's fine. I mean, I appreciate it.
So, my comment to this, I'm very close with this, is based on your professional knowledge of the 20 years that you've been in the construction business, you should have seen that by submitting on June 9th, you're gonna get comment, you should have expected to get comments back. You should have expected that you don't have a permit by July. And with that, you should have expected that this job is not going to get finished by November 15th.
I agree with what you're saying. If I'd have known the rules were going to change, that would have been different. They change after the fact.
You can't expect to walk in on June 9th and have a permit on June 10th.
No, I
For
expect,
a $535,000.
And as you know, the Florida building code changes quite often, so that's.
And our code changes too. I mean,
So
we're
Commissioner-
making changes here.
Okay, to move this along, Commissioner Vishalak, are you of the appetite to do any reduction in the fine fee?
No.
Okay, moving on to Commissioner Pugh.
Phew. I think we're getting a little bit in the weeds. My question is.
To grow warm pizza tree.
My question is this. The bottom line here is the contractor was caught doing work and the permit had not been issued yet, correct? Okay.
Yep.
So was the work started before he applied for the permit, do you know? That's what I'm asking you, Mr. Ronnie, Guy.
Commissioner, you have no way of knowing when the work was started. This came in as a call, a report
And how long after the permit?
was applied,
Yes.
a few days after it was issued. It was submitted
Submitted.
to the town.
So there was a complaint, you went out, looked at the complaint.
Yeah.
And there was work being done, and then the permit was submitted for?
No, it was submitted.
He was
The
submitted prior.
complaint happened after the permit.
All right, so we just have a contractor here trying to jump the gun before the permit came out. Right,
Right.
my question is, you know, I mean, this is just a question, I already have an idea. We did,
I'm up here now, so.
we did the 4 times permit fee, that should be 12 years ago when we instituted that, because it was just rampant. Everybody wasn't waiting for the permit. That's why the 4-time permit fee, hoping that, you know, people would make the phone call, say, look, this is my problem. Town of Oak Ridge is a very small town, very easy to contact the town manager, police chief, and now our building official. And whereas a lot of times you know that the permit may not come out, you can always ask, hey, look, can I start on this? Can you give me a, okay, I'm going to start on some interior demolition that doesn't really any structural work. Maybe that's what I would have got that. I mean, we do now, and we do other work in town, but saying all that really comes down simply is that you started work prior to the permit and you got caught because somebody complained because probably about the noise. So the issue here is, do we reduce the amount of fine that he's paying or not? And to me, you know, karma's the kind of thing I think I'd reduce it, because if I was in his position, I'd, you know,
So what type of reduction are you looking at?
I would do 50%. I'll stay on my same 50% and staying on all these reductions.
All right, I'd now like to open the floor to public comment.
Zoanne Hennigan, 91 Highland Drive South. We have defined rules for good reasons. I have some real very specific examples alone of work that was done without permits, and Mr. Guy's aware of those on my street that created major issues. And I know we're working really hard in the town to not have that continue. However, every time we reduce these fines, we're setting dangerous precedences. So I just think it's a real big mistake to reduce this. However, one thing I'd like to point out is to Commissioner Cos's point about demolition. If we create more or different rules, I mean, maybe we need to do that.
Just to extend the code.
Yes. But I think we need to uphold the rules that we have today. And in that vein, I don't think you should reduce the fine. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Hennigan. Any other public comment? Hearing none. So tell me if I heard this correctly. Commissioner Cos, you would like to see a reduction of $8,825.
Yes.
Okay. Vice Mayor Hurlbert, you would like to see a reduction of none. Commissioner Bishalak, you would like to see a zero reduction.
Actually, I'm gonna amend that, and I'm gonna tell you why. I'm gonna go with Steve's proposal there. And here's why. Because the contractor has admitted to it and had a permit submitted. This is where I want to differentiate in this. They did not do work without a permit in the sense of they were trying to sneak under the carpet. And
Well, we may or may not know that.
from what they submitted a permit and they were caught after they had submitted a permit doing work, which they shouldn't have done at the admit.
Okay, so you would like to see the reduction of $8,825 also. And Commissioner Pugh would like to see a reduction of $16,912.50. Exactly. Well, I don't know how you came up with $88.25 either.
I tried to figure it out.
My comments are, you've got 20 years of experience. You knew what you were doing. You had gone through the process 18 months earlier with the town, so you knew the town at the time, what their process was. I do believe that this sets a terrible precedent. I am not inclined to give any reduction, but I will consider a reduction based on what Commissioner Bishalak said, and just know that next time there will be zero leniency. I'll now entertain a motion for reduction of the fine by $8,825.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, that is a motion by Commissioner Claus, a second by Commissioner Bishalak. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Nay?
Nay.
Okay, motion carries 4-1.
Can you repeat that?
Motion carried 4-1. Okay, moving on to agenda item number 4, discussion regarding dispatch unit staffing. Chief Jones, will you please advise us on this item?
Ma'am, good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Commissioners. As part of my duties as your new chief, I began doing a staff study of the police department's personnel and noticed that we did have a deficiency in the communications center. Based on that deficiency, I began doing some calculations and some math, which I presented to you as part of the staff study. It shows that we would be better served by having a full-time dispatcher there rather than a part-time temporary dispatcher. And by doing that, we would save a considerable amount of money and also increase the number of productivity type work hours we would get from that unit. So I'm requesting that we move that unit from its 5.5 positions to 6.5 positions.
So before I open it up for commissioner comment, what would be the base salary and then the all-in salary of another dispatcher?
The estimated starting salary total with benefits is approximately $75,000.
And town manager Stevens, how would we allocate this since we have just finished our budget season, and would this be on top of our budget? Is there reductions? Help me understand the financial impact of
For
this.
this year, we can cover it with budgeted funds. We have a lieutenant's position that's currently open now. We also have the part-time dispatcher that we do not use all the time. That's Gene Rosenberg. We don't use the full amount of that line either.
So our fiscal year, though, is getting ready to end and a new fiscal year is getting ready to start. What would be the impact on the new fiscal year?
We could absorb it in those numbers for the new fiscal year, which started 10/1.
Okay. All right.
But then, you would have to carry those costs though, then into the next budget. So that's a policy
That's where it
decision.
happens.
Right.
On fiscal year 22-23.
Right.
Okay, Vice Mayor Holbert.
I read through it all and I asked you 1,000,001 questions, and I'm going to have to agree with the direction that new chief wants to go in. I think that we could definitely handle it. Like you said, we've given up the lieutenant's position. We have some money out there, and that's one of our more important things here in this town. And dispatch is what, 24/7? That's like our lifeline, fire safety, the whole bit. And so I'm going to support it.
Okay, Commissioner Cosner.
I don't think it's a matter of budget whatsoever, because if you read the memo, the second to last paragraph, we're gonna save $13,716 by hiring this new person rather than using part-timers and this person and that person getting paid overtime. So obviously, it's already in our budget for this October 1, 2021, moving up. So thank you, Chief, for saving us $13,716.
That's a lot of pizza. All right.
Just covered most of the money, give it back to the guy.
There you go. It's like a coconut here. Commissioner Vishalek.
I would strongly encourage everybody to actually pull this off the website, the town website, and go through this particular item that we have here. We do not just have a fantastic chief of police, we have a math genius too. I needed to send this to my daughter to actually help me through some of these things. It's amazing. The calculation that was done, absolutely. The back and forth, you can follow it, you can actually, step by step follow it. Amazing. Yes, you're saving us money.
The no-brainer.
Fantastic. Thank you very much.
Commissioner Pugh.
Well, I'd rather have a dispatcher than a policeman sitting in dispatch. I'd have a policeman out doing the job we hired him to do. So it's kind of a no-brainer.
All right, I'll now open the floor to public comment. Seeing none, I'll now close public comment. We'll entertain a motion on the dispatch unit staffing request.
So moved.
Thank you.
That is a motion by Vice Mayor Hurlbert, second by Commissioner Cos. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to agenda item number 4A, which was the approval, which was 1H, to authorize the town manager to sign the proposal and any associated contracts with Tyler Technologies for the building permit software as budgeted in the fiscal year 2022 budget. Commissioner Vishalek, since you made this request, please.
So I took this out for the following reason. I want to make this clear as a public discussion, what this particular software actually does and what we should expect for our 2022-2023 budget, that this is going to come back to us and we should be prepared for it and understand that this is going to come up a year from now. Basically, right now, the way that the building permit, suggested building permit software works is we have, when you're submitting for building permit, you have the ability of coming to the town, you have the ability of paying online now through that new software, but you're still submitting your plans to the town physically. This basically gives the ability to the homeowner or to the contractor to track their permits. So you can go online and you can punch in your permit number or your application number, and it will track what you're doing, where it is, what is being reviewed. You might see comments, I assume, on your site. You can work with your permit and see what the status of your permit is. and you can pay certain things through the new system. What it doesn't do is we're not at this point with this system that we're approving here today, or that is up for approval today. What we're not doing is we're not submitting the actual building plans electronically, or the contractor or the architect is not submitting them electronically. So they are still coming as a hard copy into this building. And the idea of today's building departments, when you go into the bigger building departments that have already software running, is instead of having a hard copy come in, and again, the background out of that is an architect makes the plans on a computer. Today, everything is done on computer. We have an architect sitting right there. No, not an architect. You're doing all of your work on a computer, so it's in electronic form. Then you're printing it out into a hard copy. Then you're submitting it to our building department. And then our building department eventually, after reviewing all of this, needs to take that hard copy and scan it and put it back into electronic form. That is time consuming, wasteful time consuming, and we're trying to get away from that. This first software tracks the building permit, but does not take care of the electronic. So next year, we need to try to get to the second part of the module, which actually will allow contractors, architects to submit their permits in electronic form, and then our building department reviews them in electronic form and makes their comments, and everything is done through that system. That will save time, that will save us storage, that will save us scanning, that will save us everything. That is the idea behind it. So I want to be sure that we all understand that this very juncture here, 1H, item 1H, is for the first part of this module. It's not the full module. The full one will cost about double of what we are budgeted, what we have budgeted in this last budget, current budget. But we will have this coming back to us a year from now in the next budget. And it's going to be crucial that we understand that the second part of that module needs to be implemented as well.
Okay, so
that capability.
The online submission of building plans.
It doesn't, but the software does have that capability.
Yes, it does.
Yes. So what I'm hearing you say, tell me if I'm wrong, is you are just making the public aware that this is step one in a two-step process, and that I believe that you are supportive of it, but you want to make sure that people understand in full transparency that this is not, is just
It's
step
not
one.
the end of the road.
Okay.
And also for us to understand.
Okay, I'll now entertain a motion on approving the consent agenda item number 1H.
So moved.
Second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Commissioner Vishnu. I appreciate it. Okay, moving on to staff and committee reports. Agenda item number 5, Planning and Zoning Chair Marsh, will you please present the Planning and Zoning report?
Not an argument.
That's it.
Just an aside, I still draw.
You and Digby.
I have people that do that.
I like that.
Good evening, Mayor and Commission. For the record, Mark Marsh, Chair of the Planning and Zoning Commission. Just want to bring you up to speed on what transpired at our last meeting. We didn't, for a change, we didn't have any formal applications, which was unusual, because we're all aware that things are moving in a very progressive way through the building construction. We were also short a full commission. We had 4 full-time commissioners. One was absent with notice, and there were no alternates available. So it was close, but we did have a quorum. There was no public comments, so it allowed us as a commission to discuss more openly and and we spent quite a bit of time reviewing the subjects that were on the agenda, which the first item was regarding flat roofs. Thanks to Corey Borman, he went out and provided the commission a lot of information from other communities, some that were appropriate and others that weren't, but it gave the commission a good feel of where we think we want to head and what we want to allow. So after discussion, there are 10 items, and I'll just go over them. I know I must say, we finally are admitting that we will allow flat roofs. No more hybrids, no more pitched roofs hidden behind parapets. It is what it is. I think the only concern, and I've expressed this as the chair of the commission, that we still have to be careful that the style of a home is relative to the form and the setting of the house, so that it's not just an open door to produce what I call a parking garage on the end of Hudson there on the ocean side. So, but it's a big step for this town. The only other town is Gulfstream that doesn't really allow flat roofs, so God bless them. The first item was, as I said, we decided to define what a flat roof is, so we don't do any more 4 and 12s hidden behind parapets. This was a motion was made, and it was unanimous that we are now going to adopt a flat roof category within the code. The second was one that's always an issue or contentious item, is the overall height of a flat roof. As you know, we have now created what I call a point of measurement, which is +7 based on the FEMA criteria. And that is the point by which height is now measured vertically for development. And we discussed this openly, and I think it was agreed that the point of measurement 7 would then, the top of the building or the highest point would be to the top of the tie beam, which in our type of construction is the most consistent reference point. Other towns use the eave heights. Palm Beach has a convoluted thing where the top chord, bearing chord, meets the outside face of the wall. So we want to keep it simple. I think it's the only way to be able to have building department review and understand. So it would be 14 feet for a single story and 24 for a 2-story. And that's based on giving the option for owners, developers to have, higher ceilings, anywhere from 8 to 10, 12 feet respectively. So it's not penalizing, we're not pancaking, we're not restricting. So I think it's a good concession. I'll come back to the height in a sec. The other was equipment. This one had a little bit of debate about allowing roof equipment or rooftop equipment. And I think the majority of it, the commission agreed that it would not be a wise thing to have, equipment on the roof. That's really normal in commercial type development rather than residential. To combat that, item 4 was the height of a parapet, which again is the critical element on a flat roof. And I've been saying this for the last year and a half to a lot of the applicants that came in, that the vertical height of a single story, a flat roof, 2-story house can be tremendously exaggerated by what we had before, which was that 4 and 12 pitch that was hiding or disguising the fact that it was really a pitched roof with a perimeter parapet screen. So what we've decided is to, on top of the building heights that we're going to allow or suggest, is that the height of the parapet be limited to 32 inches. The reason for that is if for some reason a owner has a specific type of equipment that has to be roof mounted or located, that it will at least create a screen from the street anyway. We can't mandate from a second story. So, but the other thing is the safety issue. The minimum height for a safety barrier, guardrail, or a railing is 36 inches by code.
if we allowed that parapet to be 36 inches, we felt that it would encourage people to use their rooftop. So by lowering it 32 inches, we provide the screening that's necessary, but we're not liable for any misuse or.
Can I ask you one question?
Sure.
Because I'm a little confused. It would be the owner's choice whether to put a parapet up. In other words, flat roofs are okay.
The architect or owner, yes.
Right, okay.
And it's not mandatory. We prefer to see it more like a curb rather than.
But you're seeing it.
But that's just a, again, I mentioned at the last meeting that from an architectural standpoint, if you have too low a single story flat roof, it looks a little bit, odd. It looks more like a.
But that's the owner's choice.
Yeah, I'm just saying, but by this, we're at least allowing flexibility, which I think is a key. Item 5 was recreational use. Obviously, we don't want to encourage any kind of rooftop activities or recreational use. 6 was access. We've had recently an application in front of us a couple of months ago that had, even though it was a flat roof, basically with sloping roof material or levels, they had assigned a certain area, which was in this case, on the highest point of the building, which was almost the 3rd story, where they had access to that roof space. And again, we don't want to encourage that. The best example, I don't know what the address is, but on A1A, just south of Thompson, there you can see it. There's like a tower up. And I remember way back coming in and asking, what was her predecessor? Your predecessor? Karen. That's Hansen. And she said, no, there's nothing in the code to stop that. And again, we just see it for safety. We don't want people getting up on there when it has a parapet that's below the allowable height. Architectural, number 7, architectural projection features such as fireplaces and towers. That's already actually covered in you're allowed to go 4 feet, I think it is, higher than the parapet if you have an architectural element like a flue or some other feature. Drainage, scuppers, that's mandatory by code, even though flat roofs will have positive drainage, which means they usually slope to a drain. By law or by code, you have to have a scupper, which is a weep in case there's some kind of blockage or backup on the roof surface. So, and then solar panels, number 9, were, some of you may be aware, but by the state energy code, I guess, you cannot deny solar panels. I've done some behind parapets and they're not visible. Green roofs came up as a suggestion, even though the concept, I think it's a good one for the environmental part of it. Again, in the eye of or the use of any individual, that can be seen as an abuse. And I think it creates a technical issue to have drainage, soil on. I think it's great in commercial or multifamily options, but I think our position is to discourage that at the moment. So all of those passed unanimously by our commission, and obviously will be discussed with you and discussed at the workshop next week. So that took care of the flat roofs, but I think what we're suggesting here does marry or match similar with, I said, other towns. So this is not something we're going out on a limb on. This is it's proven research, and I think it's going to be helpful to the town residents and developers. The second item was the letter of credit relative to demolition. I'll just touch on 2 types of demolition, because earlier you had this discussion with a contractor. Most people think of demolition as just exterior demolition. Interior demolition, in our sense or our understanding, can be just, and we've had discussion with Durrani, there can be situations where interior demolitions proceed or are permitted and start, stop, start, stop. And I think the issue with there is basically life safety issues. And, you know, if terminals, outlets are not terminated correctly, lo and behold, you could have some kind of serious condition. So we want to be clear that interior demolition has the same weight as exterior. Obviously, the letter of intent is something, I was kind of blatant about it. I said, every other town that I know of uses this as a form of penalty for any abuse that takes place. I don't think we need to get convoluted and get into people's private checking, bonding, and any of that.
We, at the last town commission meeting, we said the letter of credit.
Good. So we at least.
No, I did not say letter of credit.
Well, we, four of us.
What are you, a bond man?
Definitely. Yeah. I think it's, yeah, I think you have to, it definitely has to be specific, because interior demolition, what if I'm only, in interior demolition, I'm only doing one room? So I get a letter of credit for, it should, for maybe a $20,000 job?
I mean, yeah, you can't mandate how much value is, but it's
creating more and more and more and more onus on the homeowner that has to go through this process. I got another call today from a builder and a homeowner regarding this letter of credit.
So I would like to suggest that maybe we take this up at the workshop.
Yeah, I think, Jeff, I know exactly where you're coming from, but unfortunately, these things have to be universal.
Workshop.
For everybody. You can't cherry pick this type of thing, so.
Well, I think you can actually turn it and you can actually direct it in a way that's a little more directed. You don't have to have a big blanket over a letter of credit for an interior.
Letter of credit is proportionate, as you know, to the value of the construction. So it's
Again,
but it's still-
I'd like to really explore this a little bit further at the workshop.
Okay, I agree.
Okay.
The last item, the third item was review of development plan review checklist. I had to leave the meeting, but I did meet with the town clerk to confirm that I have no issues with that. I think even though it looks like it's a more laborious thing, it's going to help streamlining. And I'm not for paperwork, believe me, because I deal with it daily. But I think anything that's going to streamline and make things move quicker, I think it's a good system. And again, on that note, I do agree with Martin in the fact that the more you can get into the electronic systems, the better. It's going to help everybody. So I commend you for suggesting that. I think, as I said, we've come a long way. I know we've, talked about the planning commission. And I think the town is starting to benefit. I don't think the restrictions, as they're sometimes termed, are, but I will welcome all this, dialogue at the workshop. That's my report.
Thank you very much. It sounded like it was a very productive meeting.
Good night.
Good night.
So Tracy, can we find out if the HOAs of these multifamily communities require a letter of credit from the resident doing the work to protect themselves? I wonder if they do.
Interesting.
So by the workshop, if we know the answer to that, it might help the discussion. Right?
Commissioner.
Sorry, Commissioner.
You
There
have
are-
been demoted.
It's a mixed bag. They have different things, but a few of them actually ask for cash deposit.
Mhm.
And they hold a certain amount of money until the job is finished and they return that to the contract.
Good idea.
Yeah, that's what we should do. Letter of credit's a pain in the.
But we have to have a minute then.
Okay. Moving on to agenda item number 6, Town Manager Stevens, will you please present your monthly report?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I'm not going to go through the whole report. I'm just going to go through items that kind of need a consensus or direction to staff. But I would encourage the public to go on the website and review the full report or view it in the newsletter that will be coming out on Friday. One thing I wanted to bring to your attention, I did receive a question from a resident regarding our qualifying period for town commissioner. And the resident wanted to know how we came to our decision on when we were going to have that. And I let the resident know that historically our qualifying period has been 2 full weeks, and we stayed with that when we drafted our new ordinance language. And the reason we chose the first full 2 weeks in November was to stay in line with the Palm Beach County Supervisor of Elections requirements, and also to give staff enough time to do the associated paperwork once the qualifying period ends and get that paperwork timely to the Supervisor of Elections. Not only that, but we were trying to open the qualifying period when most residents would be in town and not out of town on Thanksgiving holiday break. So I just wanted to mention that to the public. Congratulations to Chief Jones on 7 years with the town. Thank you for your dedication to the town.
Lucky 7.
Holiday events that are coming up, we were going to hold our Cruising Santa Golf Cart Parade on Saturday, December 11th at 3 p.m. But I wanted to ask the commission what your feeling is on our annual Light the Lights event that we usually hold. Due to COVID, I don't recommend that we have the event indoor. If we wanted to do an event, I would recommend an outdoor event. But what's your pleasure on holding an event at all? We are going to have the Cruising Santa event. Do you still want to hold Light the Lights as well?
Okay, I just need a thumbs up or a thumbs down. No soliloquy. Vice Mayor Hurlbut.
I think that it'd be a nice way to start back to normal life in the town, and I like the outdoor idea that kind of balances that out. I don't have a problem with that.
Okay.
Am I hallucinating, or did we in our budget put in for heavy lights to be put around Town Hall at Christmas, but not on the ocean?
Right.
Right, so I would say we do not need light.
All right. Commissioner Bishwat?
Hold on, we're not, we have them at town hall, but not on ocean.
What's the question? He's asking a question. There.
Okay.
That's
Yeah,
fine.
outdoor, rent a tent, put it outdoor, let's go.
Have a
Dave,
party.
watch NFL this weekend? Holy cow. I
Okay,
mean,
I'm a thumbs up
You
also.
too?
You have your consensus.
Okay.
I think the
So we'll do Light
consensus
the Lights
leading
then.
though is something outdoor, and I prefer to see it, if it is gonna be outdoors, since we don't have a lot of adequate lighting, that we try to do it a little bit earlier.
Earlier.
It's actually,
Right.
and no lights.
Lighting
the no seams are out?
Yeah, when the no seams are out.
Around 6 o'clock.
I'd say even early. No snow
It's
though.
like a-
No snow.
No snow, no
That's a
bounce.
good point about it being dark and.
All right.
Okay, so we have our consensus. Now, talking about the date, would you like to do it when we typically have it, which is the first Friday in December? Or would you rather hold it in conjunction with the Cruising Santa? If you hold it in conjunction with Cruising Santa, you might have it during other events like the boat parade and Boynton. It might be on the same date. We don't know what that date is yet.
I don't think we need to reinvent the wheel. I do it all in one day myself, but
Well, I'm good.
what are you doing, sis?
But it's still, it took some getting used to. I'm the,
Is that something that you guys can actually do, that we're doing both of them back to back, staff wise? Because we're talking about Saturday versus Friday.
Oh, right, and the reason
Right.
why we do it on a Friday is because we have staff available. to staff the-
exactly.
Yeah.
Whatever you
So
want.
having that Friday, I think sounds like a smart idea. Stay within tradition. First week, start off the holiday, dun, dun, dun.
How about we leave it to staff's discretion?
There you go.
Okay.
Done.
Sounds good.
I like that.
Okay, City of Boynton Beach Public Works Department recently notified us that they will be replacing their blue light poles on their side of Ocean Ave Bridge with black light poles and replacing the bulbs with LED lighting. We do have a item in our budget this year to replace some of our non-working lights on our side.
Mhm.
Would you like to stay in line with what the City of Boynton is doing and have them all uniform black LED, or would you like to have us stay with the blue? And it looks more like you're entering Ocean Ridge because we have different,
When is
Lights.
Boynton doing their light?
whenever they can get it approved by not only FDOT, but their commission.
You want to wait till after, see what they look like? If
Well,
they
they're
don't
gonna
look
look
that
like
great,
big,
then
they're
good.
gonna
Let's
look like
stick
big
with
black
blue.
poles. I like the concept of having ours separate And also, black, it's so, on a big old metal light pole, and decorative, we have decorative light poles on that, right? I think.
Then it's blue.
Huge fan of differentiating ourselves from
Me
Boynton,
too.
including the color of the poles and softer LEDs than they use. So when you come over the bridge, you go,
Oh, I like the softer.
I'm in a no.
Yeah,
I
we'll
mean-
try to do as soft as possible for LED, but we do have to stay in line
Right.
with
Yep,
the
I
lighting
understand.
requirements for FDOT.
Okay, I think you have your consensus then. Commissioner Bishop?
Yeah, the only thing that came up in our staff meeting was if we're changing, because Boynton wants to go halfway up the bridge with black ones, and then halfway down, because I'm OCD.
Martin, that's to be determined. They might do the whole
And then-
entire bridge.
Okay, so my thing would be, I would like to see that we're uniform over the bridge. Either they stop before the bridge and we have blue over the bridge, or, they go over the entire thing, or if they really just have, then let's paint them black up until we're off the bridge.
So let's
But
see what
that's
they're-
because I'm OCD, so.
Really?
Sounds like Woolbright Bridge is in your future.
Color.
Okay, you have your consensus? Yes?
Yes. Okay, next thing. Recently, we have had issues with attendance of board members at the Planning and Zoning Commission meetings. For the past 4 meetings, we've only had 4 members out of 5 attend the meetings, and alternates have not been available. As you may recall, when the town commission recently appointed an alternate to the P and Z, the town clerk had asked that member if he would be available during the summer months, and he answered yes. However, he has been out of town the entire summer and unable to attend the meeting since he was appointed. This poses a problem as we have an odd number of members in order for business to move forward, and when we have only 4 members, it's an even number, which means if we have a 2-2 vote, that business is dead or has to go to the next meeting.
Who was that?
Who was what?
The one that said they were going to be there?
Roger Brenner?
I'd like to just elaborate a little bit on that. Even if you are at a hung vote, if they're just discussing town policy, that's one thing, but we're talking about you could potentially be stopping a resident or a builder from moving forward for another 30 days. And, nobody likes to see that.
Right.
But do we call the alternate? Like, let's pretend they live in
Yes,
Vermont.
yeah,
Okay,
we do.
Please come down.
We always do.
Is there a possibility for us to actually appoint somebody from the commission into the planning and zoning board?
I don't think you want to, you can't make
Like a
that.
deciding vote, like you have the vice president.
No, it's a conflict.
But right, Christie, many municipalities have that on their boards where you can only miss a certain amount of meetings in a row, usually is how it works out, in a row. And you know that before you get on.
Yeah, and that's where I was going to go with this. Do you want to have us look into a code amendment to bring to you for the next meeting?
Sure.
Well, isn't it
Can't hurt.
Well, don't the board members serve at the behest of the commission? So can't the commission then just, we could do we can make a motion and take somebody off the board if we so choose. If they serve on the behest of the commission, why do we have to?
But isn't it something they should know before they get on, basically, that, you're going to get ditched if you miss 2 in a row with.
Attorney Cato?
I know you're coming to speak. We have to look at each board carefully on that issue, because if you're appointed for a term, you may have a property right in your term. So we have to look at it for regular appointed board members and alternates to see if they can be excused at the pleasure of the commission, or if we need to do a code amendment to clarify that their term could be dismissed for cause by missing a certain number of meetings.
So what I understand, the reason that this was brought forth in a discussion item is not for a vote tonight. It is just for consensus that we take a look at some of the rules we got again and see what we need to do.
Really, we should find out if he chooses to tell us. Maybe this guy has a serious medical issue that someone popped up and who knows, we don't know.
Yeah, but now it'd be up to him to call the court and say, look, I'm not going to make it the whole time.
I do
I'm
believe
recusing
that
myself.
Clerk Armstrong has spoken to him several times.
Yeah, there was some occasions that it was because of surgery. There was others because of the COVID and the upbrand in Florida.
He was uncomfortable.
He's
to
out
come
of
to
town.
Right.
Yeah. He lives north or something.
So I think you have consensus to take a look at.
Let's look into it, how we can tighten it up.
Yep.
Okay, good. Thank you.
I'll pass that gavel right on to you. You're the one that voted for me.
Okay, and last but not
That wasn't much
least,
there. Wasn't much there either.
No.
last but not least, currently boards and commissions other than the town commission fill their chair and vice chair positions by making a motion and a second on the floor and then calling for a vote. I'm inquiring to see if there's any desire to change the process to fill the chair and vice chair positions by ballot, which is how the town commission fills the mayor and vice mayor seats each year. And I did provide you some language in my memo.
I strongly support that. There's no reason for this jockeying of motion and seconds and then failing motion. And it just makes it clean, it makes it simple, it makes it very transparent. And honestly, I think it makes it a little bit friendlier too. It's kind of an awkward situation when you're.
Tracy, did you know?
How's it
boards
transparent?
for
Stick
this-
it down.
Say that again.
The boards, like Mark's not here unfortunately, did they want this as well?
Have we asked the other boards if this is something that,
Did you ask the chair of the board?
No.
Okay.
So just discuss it next meeting.
So brought it up.
Well, we've talked about it in several meetings when we're talking about our rules of order and procedure and whether we should extend the rules to boards and committees. And this
There's a
this one's gonna be
consistency.
coming
Yeah,
up
consistency.
soon because we have our board of adjustment that will need to be doing their organizational meeting in November. So,
Okay. Discuss it next meeting, right?
Okay, but to meet the November requirement, I think she needs some kind of consensus tonight rather than kicking it down.
well, I'll bring it back for November. So I'll bring the change to you and then you can
Okay.
vote on it.
All right, I agree.
Okay. All right, and that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Agenda item number 7, Attorney Cadeau, do you have anything to report?
I do not have a report.
Thank you. Agenda item number 8, Chief Jones.
Commission, I would like to bring to your attention, obviously, the report data that I provided as part of your packet. Report, make many changes to it, to make it more readily available for you to see the content contained within it. If you have any questions, I'll feel free to answer those. If you have any additional data that you want to see on those reports, I am currently working with communications to expand upon their data, so you should see that show up in the next month's meeting data. And in addition to the reports, I would like to have an opportunity to recognize Detective Aaron Chauvin, who's in the audience. If the commission would allow me to take a moment to recognize him for something that's recently taken place. Aaron, if you'll step forward, please. So in February of this year, Aaron took a complaint from a walk-in resident who had lost $19,000 as part of a scam. And it was taken directly out of her pay stub through her electronic payroll company. So she was devastated by the loss of that fund. He worked diligently over the last several months and was told by every bank contact that he made that the money could not be returned and that they had no idea where that money had even gone to. And Aaron did subpoenas and went just diligently attacked this case day after day until he was finally able to not only locate the money, but get it returned to the resident.
Wow. Fantastic.
So obviously it was a case where it could have very easily turned into a civil type, issue of there's nothing we can really do to help, but Aaron's not that kind of guy. And he just really thought that he could do more for her, and he continued to do it until he was successful. And that's the kind of work that Aaron does on a daily basis, and I just wanted to be able to give him that recognition in front of the commission.
Fantastic.
thank you so much.
Thank you, thank you.
Thanks for that.
Additionally, we currently have in our code some parking restrictions that by virtue allow me as the chief to also be designated as your traffic engineer. So I can't change parking regulations by virtue of just simply changing them, but I am allowed by the code to install signage that in essence changes the regulations associated with parking. The reason I bring this to your attention is because over the last several months, even prior to being the chief, we've had some parking restrictions that needed to be modified to meet the needs of groups within the town. And we really were unable to do it within the code because I don't have an exemption present in the code to allow me to just waive that code. So what I've come up with, and I'm kind of looking for consensus from the commission on this, is when we have these special events or these, I don't even want to call them a special event, when we have these unique circumstances where we need to allow parking in areas where typically that parking would not be allowed or would be restricted, that we be allowed to post temporary signs that say parking by permit only. And it would be very simple to install 2 signs that would designate the area as parking by permit only, and then for us to issue a temporary permit that would be displayed in the vehicle. So in essence, we're providing the exemption by placing signage, which I believe I'm allowed to do by the code. But I wanted to know whether that was something that the commission would be in favor of. It's not something we would use on a regular basis, but there are events several times throughout the year that require accommodations to be made at different locations. And they are legitimate, but I don't really have a means to deal with them currently. But if the consensus would be that you are okay with me doing something like this, then I would just do that based on the needs of those events. And then, you know, bring forward to you later in the future some type of a resolution that would be more permanent for the future.
So when we discussed this, I think a good example is the garden club meets 7 or 8 times a year, and usually up and down Old Ocean is usually if we're doing dune plantings or a private residence. And the police has always been very supportive of it as long as we park a certain way and put a placard in. I think you're just kind of making it a little bit more formal, and as our traffic manager, inserting yourself. So I'd be supportive.
Yeah, I don't like it at all. The Donovans just east of me, she was the president of the Gulfstream School. So at least twice a year, they have the mommy get together. So it's probably 30 cars. And I know the way it works for her, and the way I've done it myself when I have parties, is the police said, please only park on the east side, the south side of Beachwood. And it seemed pretty simple. If I'm understanding the system correctly, you're going to be installing temporary parking permits needed, and then every single guest that comes to one of these events is going to have to get a parking permit.
Not so much for these special events that you're talking about, because that's not really what I'm trying to address. What I'm trying to address are things where we currently restrict parking by our code. For example, if the road is not certain width, you're not permitted to park on the roadway. These are all things that over time we have used discretion that is selective. And I don't want to say that negatively, but what I mean is there's no way for me to determine whether that vehicle should actually be there or not without some type of an official placard or permit. Most of those events that are homeowners doing events like that are on roadways that are easy enough to manage that until we look at something.
And most of the homeowners alert you, right?
Right.
Yeah.
What I'm talking about more specifically are target areas that are very difficult to manage, like Old Ocean or A1A, or roadways that are immediately adjoined to A1A, where all it takes is one car to park in a no parking zone, and the next thing you know, you have 12 more cars parked there that aren't even attending the event that you intended for that parking to be purposed for. So this particular issue is more selective to those higher traffic areas where we really need the ability to have some way to enforce the ordinance without restricting the parking altogether. Because in essence, the code currently doesn't allow me to make that adjustment.
So you're not taking away the ability of Steve hosting a party and having his clients, his guests park on the south.
But they have to come and get a permit. I think it's a burden.
No, I don't think that where we're talking about the residential areas like that, where you're just having a party that may last for 2 or 3 hours. That's not what I'm talking about.
That's not Steve's parties.
I'm talking about major roadways where we might have an event on a 4th of July or something like that. Maybe an event that's a legitimate event, but by virtue of us allowing parking in a no parking zone that's properly posted, we now have no method to enforce people who aren't attending that event from parking there.
Correct. So on July 4th, as an example, McCormick Mile Beach Club always does an annual party. We obviously, since we haven't done one in a very long time, it was heavily attended. We worked with the police. They actually gave us placards. We were responsible for passing them out, not the police. And it actually ended up working out very well, because you can imagine if you're from another area and you're searching for a parking spot so you can watch the fireworks, they wouldn't know the difference between that car and a car from somebody who was actually part of the McCormick Mile Beach Club. So the placard worked very well. Nobody was upset by it. I mean, it was pretty easy to
Right,
administer.
whoever's hosting, like you said, is the one that would then be in charge of
That's
giving
one
them.
good example. What's brought this up most recently is the need to park some vehicles on Old Ocean due to some paving that is going on inside of the Turtle Beach Development Club. And they were able to strategically get vehicles placed in other areas of parking lots around that location, but due to the number of residents and even breaking it up over several days of paving, there's still a need to park approximately 6 to 8 vehicles along Old Ocean. As you all know, Old Ocean has a number of beach crossovers. By virtue of parking in conjunction with any beach crossover, you're violating town code. So by doing this, in essence, I would have to deny them the ability to park there, because they would be directly in violation of that code as well as others. But by providing some exemption through a temporary permit process, we would be able to accommodate that, and it's for a 24-hour period of time.
And you can put the date on those
Correct.
signs.
So it just gives us the ability to have a restriction in place and force it without having to say, we can't accommodate your need because the code doesn't allow it. I know it's a thought that everyone probably on the commission, including me and some of my staff, are like, well, we've always done this. The problem is the code doesn't allow for what we've always done. So, at some point we have to either fix the code or address the way in which we're handling the code. So I'm trying to do this in a respectful enough way that it accommodates everyone's need without being so burdensome that it creates a problem or dilemma for the residents who, need to take advantage of those unique circumstances from time to time.
Okay, Commissioner Vigilant.
The signs that you want to put up are here, from here to here. Those are obviously temporary signs.
I would intend to simply use a trifold barricade that's very small, that would just literally be placed in no kind of post or anything like that.
I'm conflicted about this out of 2 reasons. I see the need for it because this excuse of, we've always done it that way. Let's just not address it any other way. At one point, it's going to bite us. At the other hand, I don't want to see more and more bureaucracy in there, but you kind of need it in order to not shoot yourself in the foot. So
I think you also have to define what a qualifying event is. If the chief is saying, if you have a party on Engel and alert him, and he says, okay, park on the north side of the road only, you're okay. So that's not a qualifying event. So what's a qualifying event? That's what we need to know.
I believe the chief said on a substandard street,
You did say connected to A1A.
A1A and Old Ocean. So again, I mean, I think the chief, I would like to give the chief the discretion as our traffic manager to be able to make those determinations. I don't think we need to get too far into the.
It's not about restricting people. It's simply basically giving the tool to say, there is a tool now that we can do what we've been doing.
What I missed?
Steve's party's not this.
No. We'll all come and part on this lawn. Okay. Do you have the consensus you feel you need?
Sounds good to me.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you for bringing it forward. All right, town engineer agenda item number 9 and public works report was included in our meeting packages. Are there any questions or comments from the commission?
Where were the bees?
Near Ocean Avenue.
On the sidewalk, were they in the trail? Just interested. I mean, I love seeing this. Bees removed.
They were near the sidewalk area where it could have been a danger to pedestrians.
Interesting. Okay.
Maybe remote.
Humanely
Were they
removed.
kept live? Was it live removal or destruction?
I'm actually not sure.
Those are gonna be.
Glass building. Killer horn.
Yeah.
Killer.
Okay. Agenda item number 10, building official Guy, will you please present your report in a rapid
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Please accept my report as read into the minutes. I'd like to, however, just add one thing. The Postal Star, Jerry, I believe, did a great job in looking at various angles on the issue of the formula recertification. Something I've mentioned to a few people before. I think we should probably read his article. I think he looked at it, from the town's angle, what the town requires, and from the angle of the residents of condos, and looking also that it might also have the adverse effect of creating more work, something we need to look at. But at the same time, we also want to encourage safety. So it is something that I will be proposing shortly. The Palm Beach County is dealing with this in an expeditious fashion. They have adopted a working draft from the League of Cities and are moving forward with that. And then once that's done, they're going to share that with the rest of cities throughout Palm Beach County. But just for us to get a running start, I do encourage that we look at this, and if we get more time to look at the Miami-Dade and the Broward County versions of their audio certification. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, moving on to town commissioner comments. Commissioner Collins?
So just really briefly, maybe we can get into it at the next meeting and we'll concur the problem. So on Edgewater Beachway, my house is on the north side, 8 large ficus trees. They're decimated by whitefly. The sources of the whitefly are north of me, which that neighbor's kind enough to remove his entire hedge because he's going to do a remodel anyway. To the south of me, not so much joy. And to the west of me, believe it or not, it's actually the town has a whitefly infested ficus tree. I'm not trying to be selfish here, but it's cost me $9,000 in the past 12 months attempting to save those trees from the whitefly. In my conversation with Durrani, he said that there are other areas in town that are also having this issue. We have a town code, who knew, that said any landscaping infected by any exotic pest, included but not limited to whitefly, must be removed, provided, however, that property owners shall be permitted to treat infected plantings if treatment is sought within 30 days of any town notice. So we don't do that.
Yeah.
Right, well, I mean, we have this ordinance.
Okay.
So all I'm trying to do is, the town is going to be, the poison used to kill the whitefly, I spent hours on this with other people, is not that effective against whitefly. So we have to get people that have whitefly on their property to treat it immediately. It's the only hope we're going to have. Otherwise, we're going to have another whole infestation of whitefly come ripping through the town. And the people on A1A in particular susceptible because the wind's out of the southeast and the cars are coming back and forth, creating wind tunnels for the whitefly. So I guess maybe it's a plea to the police chief or to Durrani, if there's some system, these people could be identified. In my staff meeting, it came up that how can they identify the whitefly? Well, the simple way is to shake the bush or the tree, and if a lot of white comes off it, that's whitefly. It does present a bit of a challenge, but if we don't act now, and keep our fingers crossed that they, or the chemical company, comes up with a new product that the white fly has no resistance to, because it's building resistance to this, we're gonna be in a large problem.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it was about 10 years ago, I think we went through this. We also, Garden Club sponsored a presenter at Town Hall. And at the same time, Gulfstream, who is, behind the bushes with 22-foot ficus, had a very large problem and actually ended up passing a similar ordinance, and theirs was actually a bit more aggressive because the seasonality of the residents. If the residents were not there and did not take care of it because they were seasonal and their gardener was not taking care of it, they actually started to remove bushes. So I think we have to be careful what we wish for. But I also don't think it is the job, this goes back to a little bit of personal property rights, to be frank, that I don't think it's the job of our building official to be looking at everybody's bushes. I think it is probably eminent on each individual property owner like you are to bring it up. And when we bring it up, then to move forward on a code enforcement situation.
Yeah, and it's not just my property. I don't know how many people are familiar with the entrance to Beachway. If I had to remove those 8 large ficus trees, it would change the entire look. And it would change the entire look when you enter Ocean Ridge Overbreak. It would make it look like very suburban.
Can we also consider, I'm with you on all this, white fly has just been painting for 20 years now. Can we also put out some sort of alert, maybe through Civic Ready, through our Ocean Ridge tidings? Please notice your white fly, it's back, and please take a look. And if you need any input, then they can call the town, we can correct them, something like that. Because it's obviously that
Yeah, maybe
something
we'll
get
have
your
a
attention.
separate special, I think who sends those?
Amber, a green alert, a white alert.
Green alert.
But I'm with you, because
Anyway,
you can't let it go too long, because then there's no going backwards, and it spreads like wildfire.
If you don't get out of control now,
Yeah,
forget it.
no, I'm with you.
We're lost.
I saw mine today, literally today, losing leaves, and
And by that point, it's there.
I think at this point,
Yeah, but I had 40-foot tree.
no, you can't cut it.
Yeah.
I'm going to.
But the more people we let know, then the more people can take care of this on their own, because they don't want to lose their landscaping.
Okay, thank you for bringing it up.
Yeah.
Any further commissioner comments?
I'm good.
Hearing none, I'd like to call the meeting to order, very productive at 7:50. So excited to have an audience again.